What is going on, my people? What is the deal? It is your main man, Charles Tank Harris, the founder and chief visionary officer of the financial literacy platform Wealth Our Way, where our motto is wealth is not only for the wealthy. I welcome each and every one of you to episode 32 of the Financial Power Hour. And tonight we are talking about the main fact that no one can get around and no one should put on the back burner: your health, because your health is your wealth. But before I get into any of that, I want to practice the attitude of gratitude and say thank you to each and every one of you who are here with me live as I stream across the Wealth Our Way Facebook page and the Wealth Our Way Network YouTube page. If you have not subscribed to the Wealth Our Way Network YouTube page, what you waiting on? Get your subscription game tight and come on today. I want to give the Wow Nation salute to the many members of Wealth Our Way Nation who watch this program pre-recorded overnight, over the weekend, wherever they can get their financial literacy fix in. And then a heartfelt how are you to the good folks on the Life 101 platform. I'm just going to turn to my production team, bang, bang, and say, kick the promo.
I grew up in West Philly and times was tough. Single mom, 4 kids, there was never enough. What's a youngin' to do? Join a gang or a crew, or go to school, hit the books and find a mentor or two. God was on my side, moms was not with the games, so I studied extra hard, created a lane, read books by Warren Buffett and Benjamin Graham, spent time on Wall Street, and now I'm the man. But there's still much to do and plenty to say, so I present the Power Hour by Wealth Our Way. Enjoy the show.
In the building. Yo, so, I gotta say, the last Financial Power Hour moved me and the staff to tears, real tears. Now, y'all know I'm soft anyway, so I cry when an episode of Law and Order go 2 minutes short. But it was aggressive for me to hear the things that are happening in the healthcare system. So what I wanted to do was I tabled our the production team. My production team is tight. They have the shows outlined well into 2023 that we're doing around here. But we stopped and shuffled and hustled and made it so that we could bring to the forefront, as we go into this holiday season, a very important guest to discuss a very important industry, healthcare, and to talk about how minorities are treated in the healthcare system, how minority females are treated in the healthcare system. So tonight's guest, Tomika McFadden. Let me talk about Miss McFadden for a minute. She's the founder and CEO of Pennsylvania Care Health and Wellness and Be Whole Health magazine. Now, the thing I like most is that she has an annual festival, the Be Whole Health Festival. It's previously known as the PA Care Health Fest. And what she does is she brings A-list entertainers and artists, because we like entertainment just as much as we like education in this day and age. And she mixes it together so well. She puts it in a bowl like the Migos and mixes it up in the kitchen and makes everybody happy. So with no further ado, the beautiful Miss Tomika Fadden. How you doing tonight, Tomika?
You had me blushing.
Oh, I try to do what I could do when I could do it.
Thank you. Thank you for that amazing introduction.
So, it's just, for me, whenever I bring a guest on, the team vets the guest. They say, hey, we know what topic you want to talk about. They're never sure of the synergy between the guest and I. We always have a good time here on the show. But when I was reading your bio and finding out a little bit more about you, the thing that really endeared you to me before I even had a chance to meet you and see your lovely smile and your glowing personality was that you're a community giver, like I'm a community giver. And we're going to get into, over the course of the next 56 minutes, what led you to that calling. But before we even get started there, I want you, I always read a little bit of my guest bios, but I rather them tell the audience who they are and about themselves, because no one tells you how you tell you. So by all means, share with our audience who Tomika is.
Wow. The bio is supposed to be my escape from doing it.
Gotcha.
What people don't know about me is that I am a little shy, but that doesn't take away from the work and my passion. And that's what helps me to kind of break through my shyness. So who am I? I mean, honestly, I'm the girl next door. That's how I feel. I grew up in West Philadelphia. I was a teen mother. I had children with mental disabilities. You know, all three of my children. And my main objective getting through life was how can I make it better for myself and how can I make it better for others? And that was always my agenda. And it's been my agenda since my 20s. So I've been doing this for literally it'll be telling my age, so I'm just going to say over 20 years.
And I ain't mad at that. So I'll say this. One of the, you just touched on it when telling your bio, but it was also something that I picked up on from getting a little information on you. Just the amazing story of being a single mom and having not just one child, but multiple children that have special needs. So I have a special needs daughter, my baby Zoe. Shout out to Zoe. And, what happened with Zoe, I was, I'm always working. I've been working ever since I could work, and thank God for the opportunities to allow me to work. But I wasn't always present in the home. And my wife at the time, we had a bunch of kids. So, I'm the father of 6. So she's running around the house chasing multiple children. And I'm looking every time I stop in the house, I'm not there long enough. Every time I stop in, I'm saying, Zoe's not coming along like her siblings are. And moms are very defensive, and mom was there way more than me. So she's like, boy, you don't know what you're talking about. Zoe is fine. Kids, they come along on their own pace. And eventually it was just too much of a situation where I wasn't comfortable with the progress I was seeing. And as a result, I demanded that we take Zoe to my pediatrician, my grown ass, from when I was a child. And the very first thing they did when she walked in the door was give her a hearing test, and we determined Zoe couldn't hear anything. So the prognosis was getting tubes in her ears. And as a result of that, what I was told later by the child psychologist was that there are developmental windows that open for children from before the day they're born up through 2.5 years of age that open and close, and information comes through those windows. And because of Zoe's hearing issues, she missed information that will never be able to come through another window again. And grace of God, we've been able to navigate Zoe's life perfectly and fine. But what it did, because I think, and we've talked about this on previous programs, you can't help anyone until you have an ability to empathize with what they're going through. So I have a really good friend whose daughter is autistic. I have another friend whose daughter has Asperger's, I think it is, I apologize. And the reality is I would not be able to help share or conversate with those friends if I wasn't going through what I go through with Zoe, even though I consider Zoe's to not be as need-based and high as theirs. It still lets me know, hey, I read to my daughter every night. So Zoe and I read a book every night. And I get really weird looks from people when, I'll have to stop what I'm doing, or I'll say, I got to go call my daughter. And they're like, oh, that's so sweet. How old is she? I say 20. And they're like, what? Like, looking like I'm crazy. That's what, my 20-year-old, she kind of behaves like a 12-year-old. Like she's a little girl in her mind in certain areas. So tell me how it has been as a single mom with multiple kids to have this situation to navigate.
Well, it wasn't easy. Being a teen mom, my first 2 children, I had my first 2 kids by 16, and they both had cystic fibrosis, right? So that causes chronic lung disease that eventually causes death. And unfortunately, I lost my son as a result of that. My daughter is still here with us. And that was hard being a teen mom, the doctor's appointments, the constant visits, but then there was a lot of scrutiny. And when we talk about, healthcare system, how they look upon us as Black folks taking care of disabled children, right? That's a whole nother subject, but it was an issue, and that's something that I had to deal with as a teen mom, and did not have any resources, did not have any support systems, did not have any type of education or advocacy in dealing with any of that. And so, my son was the trigger. So my son was my second born, and he had failure to thrive. And they went through a lot of medical tests. They even went through HIV, all that, and all those tests came out negative. And they just couldn't figure out like what was the issue. It took them a month to figure it out while he was hospitalized. So in that process, they actually called DHS and all kinds of people. I'm 16 years old. I'm in school full time. I'm trying to raise two babies, and it was just like, I didn't understand what was happening. But what ended up coming out of it was they was like, okay, we have another test we're going to do. This is going to be our, one of our last and final tests and see what's going on with his son, because he's been in the hospital for more than a month now. He's still not growing. He's 6 months old, but he's still 6 pounds. What is going on? And it turned out that he has cystic fibrosis, which is more common amongst white people, not in Black people. So it was very rare for us. So with that being said, they said, well, because of this, now we have to test your daughter. And she came out positive as well. And so now I have 2 children with cystic fibrosis, and eventually they had to hospitalize her as well. So now I spent all my teenage years pretty much in a hospital with both of my children. And DHS was still involved because they were like, we just want to make sure you're okay, you can handle this, and different things like that. But honestly, I did not get the support I needed, just to be honest. I did not get the support. It was more like the initial call was, your son has failure to thrive, and we need to investigate, right? But once they determined that it wasn't me, it wasn't no child abuse, it wasn't no neglect, it was actual real medical condition, they didn't let up on that energy, And we're here to talk about healthcare disparities, some of the challenges that we face as African Americans dealing with healthcare, right? And I faced this at a very young age. So it's unfortunate, but at the same time, I took that opportunity and I made it empower myself, right? So as I grew and, became accustomed to how to give my children the medication they needed, how to treat them and different things like that, when I got into my 20s, it was like, okay, now I'm facing other hardships. Now I'm an adult. Now I got to work and I got to pay for a house and I got to pay for my car note and all these different things and still be a mom to children with disabilities. And so there was still no support. There was no help. There was no help anywhere. I couldn't find it. So I just made this personal agenda. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to be the help. I'm going to be the help for myself. And when I figure that out, I'm going to help others. And that's what led my activism. And I've been fired up ever since. I'm still fired up. And some years later, 13 years later, I had another daughter, and she had autism. She's on the spectrum. And then here I am again facing another challenge. But this time I understood how to self-advocate. I understood how to educate myself. I understood how to ask the right questions because now I'm an adult and now I understand, right? So, through all of this time frame, while me, raising my children and dealing with hospital appointments and doctor's appointments and people coming to my home to give therapy to my daughter who has autism, and all these things were happening. Nobody really knew because I'm very quiet. And I was still out there. I was still out there doing my thing, running my nonprofits, empowering women, trying to make sure that we empower ourselves economically so that we can make the best choices for ourselves, no matter what situations that we went through. And that's my story. That's what I went through. And, even still today, I'm still on a mission. And I've kind of turned that around, and we'll probably get into that a little bit later. But now that I've done all that work for over 20 years, now I'm like, okay, who else can I get behind to support them in their mission to make sure that they had the right support system, the right advocacy, the right education to follow through on their goals and their vision so that they can empower their community, right? Because I'm only one.
Right.
And I realized that there's power in numbers. And so my objective is to get behind those that want to make an impact in their community and support that. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
We are having a feedback issue. I thought it was my headphones, so I took my headphones and my mic off. But when I speak, I hear me coming through the sound. So I'm not sure if it's a back and forth with you. Can you hear me without an echo? And if anyone in the chat can just put how they're hearing everything, let me know. Because I can deal with the echo as long as I know everyone else isn't hearing it. With that being said, first of all, I commend you and celebrate you for the struggle, overcoming the struggle, but more importantly, not just taking your struggle, internalizing it, and wallowing in it, but using it to empower you to help others. As Mahatma Gandhi says, be the change you wish to see. I remember watching the movie The Social Network on the upstart origins of Facebook, and the character playing the dean of Harvard told the students who came to him to complain about Facebook being stolen from them. He said, we believe here at Harvard that it's more important to create a job than to go get a job. And I love that statement. And you embody that. You said, hey, it's more important for me to become the path, to create the path, instead of to go look for where the path is. Because you look first, as we all would do. Hey, where is my resource? Where's my assistant? But when you can't find it, the next thing is to make that decision of, well, am I going to go pack it up, feel bad for myself because there's no one to help me? Or as you famously said, am I going to become the help? So what that leads me into my next question, which is, I know this answer is probably very loaded and may have multiple answers, but I can already tell you're a very crafty wordsmith, so you'll narrow in on the heart of the question. With all of the opportunities for growth, we'll positively spin it, that exist in the current healthcare system, where would you say the greatest areas for that growth to occur exist right now?
Self-advocacy.
So
the system isn't built for us. It's just not. It hasn't been, and it's still not. They make some subtle changes, but a lot of the changes they make is based on capitalism, right? So when you have like medical insurance, right? So your insurance, provider will call you and say, hey, we're offering free, membership to, the YMCA or whatever the case is. That's because ultimately these are good things, but also at the same time, there's some self-preservation in there, right? For themselves. So it's like, okay, we can get you into the, to the gym, then we don't have to pay as much for your medical care, right? But at the same time, while these are good, when you do end up going to the hospital or you do end up going to any type of medical system, unfortunately for us as African Americans, we're not receiving the best care. That's why you have an increase in death rates of women having children. I just spoke with one of your producers, and I have a friend who is actually a doctor in ATL. And she was just like, you cannot believe how many women are dying as a result of giving birth, or their children are dying. And so we really, the best way I can say is that we have to arm ourselves, question people, educate ourselves, do the research, and self-advocacy is the answer I have, because no matter how the system changes, it's not for us.
I remember when I was a child, and I too grew up in West Philly. I'm a nomad of the city of Philly, did 13 different schools to get my 12th grades accomplished, but mainly 52nd and Market area. My mom would never take us to the hospitals that were in our neighborhood. We always went to Lankenau. She always crossed City Avenue and took us to Lankenau. She wanted us to go to the white hospital because she felt as though we would get better care. And, also young single mom would get on the G bus and ride it out to City Avenue to take us to the hospital whenever we helmet. And it's unfortunate, and you don't think much of it as a child. And I've grown up and been blessed to be able to live in nice neighborhoods and have some means. My kids see the finest of physicians and go to the finest of doctors, but that's not everyone's reality. And then you see an uneven, if you don't, to use the word again, if you don't advocate for yourself. Now, when I walk in, I'm 6'4", 450 plus. Like, I walk in the door and they know, don't get slapped up in here. Treat my kids, like they're the president's children. But if you don't walk in with that mindset, if you don't walk in with that ability to articulate and let them know who you are, your presence be felt, you can get treated badly in a hospital of means. you get kind of looked down upon, like, what are you doing here? Why aren't you at Grady? And the reality is that self-advocacy, which we're going to touch on a little more, that ability to know a little bit, that ability to do some research, so that when someone says something to you, you've heard the term before, you understand, and you can ask questions back. And doctors, I have doctors as clients, they're very full of themselves. They think they know more than everybody else, which is funny because I'm not a doctor and I know more than everybody else. So it's a misnomer from the door that doctors know more than everybody else. But the reality is that you can't, in their mind, question them. Oh, but hell yes, I am questioning you. And I do need to, especially, my experiences with doctors for the last 25 years have been with my babies. So I can be sick. You can break my leg. You can shoot me with the wrong medicine. You mess up one of my kids and I'm coming back for one of yours. Let's figure this out. So with that being said, let me ask my next question. It piggybacks right off of what we're talking about here, which is, so we're talking about self-advocacy and saying where the hole is in the system. Now let's address the hole in the system. Do you believe that minorities, women in particular, face more challenges navigating the healthcare landscape than their white male counterparts? And if you feel that way, why is that the case?
I mean, yes. Yes, we definitely face, that issue because we're Black women, right? Are you talking about Black women, or are you talking about just women?
I was talking about Black people, and then as Black people. But then I said took it the next step. I was talking about Black people, and then in particular as Black people, women more than men. So at the end, at the root of the tutor, we are talking about Black women, but I started at the higher level of Blacks in general, but then Black women in particular.
Okay. Well, here's the thing that I'm noticing, right? Unfortunately, a lot of our men are determining their healthcare based off the women's healthcare. Women are more likely to go get checkups, to get pap smears, to go see their OBGYN. We're having babies, so we're more likely to go to the doctor than a Black man. So then that crosses us into the realm of sexually transmitted diseases, right? Men are more concerned more about that than anything else. I don't have any statistics to spew out there right now, but from what I've seen thus far, it seems like they're more concerned with that than their health, their physical health, their mental health. They're more concerned about what's making that work down there, right? And so, I'm just keeping it honest. And if a woman says, "Oh, I went to the doctor and I'm okay," then they feel like they're okay, right? So now we have an increase in HIV as of recently. So what's happening is that men are codependent on us women getting checkups. This is only in my opinion, right? Versus them going to get checkups themselves. But there's more to health than just your sexual health.
Not to a man, unfortunately. No, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because I can't. Because they warned you about me. But no, let me. In all seriousness, let me say this, because you just said something that gave me an epiphany moment. Not making excuses for me, not making excuses for other men, but you just said something that maybe helps me understand why what you just said is true about the disparity of a man going to the doctors and to the medical facilities as opposed to a woman. And you used the doctor, the gynecologist. So I got 5 daughters. Yeah, my daughters, upon becoming woman-abled or whatever the term is, their mom took them to the gynecologist. We didn't take my son to somebody at 11 or 12 or 13 and say, "Hey boy, learn how to use this unit you have here." No, it's a very woman-driven activity. So you then get, is the word prescribed, that doctor? You get a regular occurrence. So you have a doctor now that you almost know you have to see. And boys don't have that. So now it's the training. The training is women go to the doctor, men don't. So I'm not making an excuse for us, but it wasn't until you just verbalized that I said, hey, there's a very good reason why men probably don't think about the doctor as much as the women are, because women are told, here's your doctor. Now that bleeds, you need to go here and deal with this.
I think that has a lot to do with the fact that women have our menstrual, right? And so women are like, okay, moms, your menstruals want to come. This is what you need to, be prepared for. And these are the things you're going to need. And, 13, 14, okay, now you need to see a gynecologist and all these things where men don't really have that. So that makes me think, like you, I have an epiphany. We need to normalize that, getting the men or the young men, should I say, right, into the doctor just to get checkups, whatever the case may be, and how we can create that process so it can be normalized. But yeah, I didn't realize that's what I was saying, but it begins at a young age when you think about it.
If you don't, an ounce of prevention beats a pound of cure is what my grandma used to always say. And young ladies are taught that ounce of prevention. And then it's always, unfortunately, this is the case. It's mama's baby, daddy's maybe. So I know once again, and I'll just wait for the Me Too movement to come knock on my door and cancel me. But I've always been more worried about my daughters getting pregnant than I am about my son getting someone pregnant. So as unfair as that is, I'm gonna keep it real if no one else says it, because first of all, my son, if he got somebody pregnant, we going to handle it as a family. But most young men have the option of being like, bye, and it's that woman's baby. So when you have daughters, you're worried. You're like, yo, what you out here in these streets doing? Because we don't want you coming home with this bump in your belly. And young boys, whether it's wrong or right, I'm not here to make the stance, they're not prioritized in that same way. So now, because it becomes the woman's burden unfairly, what do? We introduce birth control. So another reason for you to go to the doctor. Now you're learning how to be responsible and handle a medicine every day. So now you're 12 years old, you're popping a pill every day, you're seeing a doctor. I don't know how often you see a gynecologist, quarterly, semi-annually, whatever, but you have some ingrained responsibilities into you that the young fellas don't even think about.
Yeah, and that is true. That is so true. And I think that for me, looking at it from this perspective is because also in my background, I had some experience with teaching health education to teenagers and preteens in middle and high school. And the main objective was to teach them how to overcome high-risk behaviors. And part of that was being abstinent, right? And understand.
Can you explain to me what abstinent means?
So being abstinent from things that's going to risk your life. So whether that is drugs, alcohol, sex, that's what that means, right? So that means if somebody's getting high, you're going to abstain. If somebody's getting drunk, you're a child, you're going to abstain. Somebody's having sex, you're going to abstain. And what we did was we found creative ways to do this, right? It was like teaching children, through the curriculum, but at the same time, allowing them to apply that information and that education through a play. We would have our youth groups go out to, community events, set up a table. They would give out condoms, right? But in the process of giving them condoms, the condoms would be put in like a little slip. And it would say, yeah, guess what? This condom could break. And this person could be positive for HIV. And what would that mean for you? You know what I mean? And so it was like we were trying to find ways to engage children creative mentality so that they would abstain. And believe it or not, and I'm proud to say this, the children who were in my youth group, and they all follow me on Facebook right now and still today, I'm so proud of all of them because they're all family, men and women. They all got children. They're all doing well. Some of them have a great career. Some of them have their own business. And I can see the impact in that, right? And so it's just like, if we can continue to just have that information available, but also have that engagement available.
Agreed. So this condom thing you speak of, what is that? I have 6 kids. What is it? I've never heard of such a thing. And
you got me blushing. No, I'm not answering.
No, I'm just playing. I wanted to get you smiling. I love to smile, but I wanted to ask you. We're going to take it to something a little less sensitive a topic, tell me and my audience about the Be Whole Health Fest.
Okay, so yes, the Be Whole Health Fest. So, I ran my human service agency that started in 2016 that was servicing people like my son. So I just lost my son September of 2015.
What was your son's name?
Calvin McFadden.
Calvin McFadden.
Yeah. And so, he lived his whole life with cystic fibrosis. He passed away on his birthday, September 19th of 2015. And the thing about my son is that he lived his life like he didn't have no problems. I mean, he did his thing, and that encouraged me so, so much. And so one of my close friends and mentors said, you always wanted to open up an agency that supported, people just like your son. And there was a contract that was available with the Department of Human Services at that time. And so I was like, he was like, well, just go for it. And so I did. And I got the contract. And with that being said, I built an agency from 0 to 200 employees within 3 years. And the mission was based off of my son's life, How do we help people with medical and physical disabilities live their life to the fullest, no matter what's going on with them? But through the process of that, as we had our intake department deal with a lot of people coming in to the agency for the support that we were providing, there were people as young as 18, 23 with medical conditions that could have been avoided had they received primary care. And so then that was my next issue, because my son was born with his condition, right? But everybody else was like, these are things that we could have mitigated. We could have avoided these things had we got the care we needed. So I'm like, well, what is the issue here? And so we decided to do the Health Fest. The very first one was in 2017 at Malcolm X Park, 52nd and Pine. I couldn't believe it. 5,000 people came out the first year. It's like amazing. Wow. It was amazing. And all these people were medically screened. When I tell you we shut down West Philadelphia, we shut it down. The traffic lights was going out. It was crazy, but it was beautiful. There was no violence. There was nothing crazy. It was positive. And there was a lot of lives saved during that year. A lot of lives. People were in a space of a possibility of going into having a stroke. Mm-hmm. They were really rushed to the hospital. So there were a lot of lives saved. They didn't even know. They had high blood pressure. They didn't know, that they were diabetic. And that was the whole point. And then by creating that awareness, also connecting them to the resources, the primary care specialist, if you need glasses, we had everything completely free, the whole concert, everything. So like you said earlier, we combine music and health. And, this is the place that music and health combine. So the following year, and then at Penn's Landing. So we did it at Malcolm X Park. We did it at Penn's Landing the following. We did it so the first year was at Malcolm X Park at 52nd and Pine, but then the following year was also at Malcolm X Park and Penn's Landing. And then we also did a tour around the city, and 30,000 people.
Dope. What type of logistical challenges did you have? How open and helpful have people been to join the cause? They see you're out here doing the right thing, getting celebrities. I know I've worked in the celebrity space for over 20 some years. Sometimes you get some who are very, very helpful, and sometimes you got to beg and cajole and, give them a pint of blood, no pun intended, just to see if they'll help out. So how's your experience been in putting the festival together?
For me, it was a little different because I've been doing this for a long time, right? We're only talking about 2017, 2018, right? But I've been doing this since 1994, 95. Mm-hmm. And I was honestly tired of begging and pleading and can I get a donation? Can I get a sponsorship? I sponsored the event.
Whoa. Go on, player.
I used my for-profit to sponsor that. And that's pretty much how it worked. We got other sponsorships, of course, but they didn't contribute until they saw the success, and then
Right.
Everybody started rolling, and once they saw that, they were like, "Oh yeah, we need to get behind this." Yeah, but yeah, that's how it began. I did not have that same challenge,
Everyone wants to
but I've been through the challenge previously, though.
I'm a board member for Black Men Heal, which is a mental health advocacy entity in the Philadelphia area, and they provide men of color with 8 free therapy sessions with therapists of color. And fundraising was dreadful when we first started out. Many doors that we went to were slammed in our face, but once the money's, well, we were on a Charlemagne the God show, The Breakfast Club, and that helped a great deal. Shout out to Charlemagne. But once the fundraising started coming from Charlemagne in particular and his audience, then everybody else wanted to go, oh no, we've always supported Black Men Heal. We're down. And now fundraising kind of takes care of itself. But I definitely understand your plight in that regard of it's not popular until you're popular. Nobody wants to be first. So
I'm sorry.
You're good. Go ahead. Go, Tomika. What do you want to say?
So one of the things I was always asked was who's on the board or who else is sponsoring. So I mean, it is what it is. People want to get on board with things that are popular, but I wanted to navigate that, and so it was like I'm gonna do it anyway, and that's what happened.
I love it. Let me ask him that question. And I don't know what's going on with this feedback. It's driving me crazy. I don't like it. But as long as you can concentrate through it, I appreciate you. When you talk about giving back, I want to go back a little bit. If we can remember the part where we were talking earlier about how people do things, and we were using the healthcare system in general of saying how they may send you to the Y, or they may have a smoking cessation opportunity inside of your healthcare, and it's being done from the outside to look like, hey, we care about you and we want to be preventative and we want to be healthy, but there's some goal for them. They've done the cost analysis on if we can get you to stop smoking, we don't have to treat emphysema and lung cancer down the road. So they've done the math. I don't have a problem with that. I tell people this all the time, and people say I'm cynical, but I think one of the most selfish things that people do is to be charitable. And nothing sounds crazier than that statement, because you would think charity is the most selfless thing you can do. But if you were really to peel through, and you're a great example of it, I'm a great example of it. If you peel through, you just go down the American Cancer Society's fundraiser list, I think you'd be hard pressed to not find the numbers that about 85 to 90% of the donors have had a family member or themselves been stricken with cancer. And it makes them feel better to honor Aunt Susie by writing a check every year to the American Cancer Society. So it's one of the greatest things you can do, but you're doing it for selfish reasons. So I don't have a problem with selfish. We have so many words that have negative connotation, and selfish is one of them. But for the healthcare industry to say, I'm going to create a smoking cessation program or preventative weight loss program so we don't have to spend as much money fixing these problems later, I'm cool with that, because I want to be healthier. We talk about our healthcare system in America being a treater of symptoms and not a finder of cures. So if we can prevent disease and ailment early so that we don't have to treat symptoms, I think that's a good thing. I want to get your thought on that.
Yes, absolutely. That was the whole point of the Health Fest, to get ahead of it. I only mention those things because I understand on the back end what it's about, but also on the front end of it, take advantage of it. Definitely go to the gym. Definitely get ahead of your health. That is so important. And I live by that every single day. I don't try to tell anybody anything that I'm not living by. Eat healthier, it's one step at a time. If you mess up, that's okay. Get back on that horse and keep going. Okay, you mess up again, do it again. Because sometimes that's what it takes. So, the whole point, like me doing the whole health fest and everything, was selfish. It was like, oh my God, these people are like dying at a young age. Let me do something amazing to like bring everybody together, so that we can change lives. So I had no qualms at all with the strategies that are taking place. But I'm hoping that we take advantage of these opportunities.
I agree completely. Now, thinking as someone who is as much of a giver as you are, as the saying goes, and I found it to be true, that giving is its own reward. With that being said, though, I would love to hear a story or two about some of the most rewarding moments that you personally experienced on your journey in this path of helping the community.
Wow, you asking me to break that down to just two. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. I just have so many stories. Um, Dang, that's hard because there were really a lot of stories.
Well, you don't have to limit. We got a few minutes. We can spend some time on this one. Just tell me some things that made you just like, I go to bed, I smile, I see myself in the mirror, I love me more because of this. This has been what happened.
I think overall that I've been through such a hardship. Raising my children, not getting the support I needed, not knowing how to advocate for myself. I think that my mission has just been to make sure that lives were changed. And I've dealt with a lot of lives for a long time. I run into people all the time on the street. Oh my God, Tomika, McFadden, you saved my life, and something so simple as, oh my God, I've never been to a concert before, because I couldn't afford it, and crying tears. I mean, the examples are numerous, but the feeling I have inside of me is I just want people to know that there's more. I just want people to know that there can be more, that there is so much hope. If I can do it, you can do it, period. That's it. I'm just trying to be an example of what we can do. I didn't come from money. I didn't come from middle class. I came from West Philadelphia, from the hood, and did these things, and my objective is to ensure that people are empowered, to either empower themselves and empower others, and change their lives in the process. Like, it can be done. And one of the other passions that I have is like eating right and eating healthy, and it can be good, it can be tasty, and you can lose the weight and get your health together. Because a lot of times with us experiencing so much stress, our economic status affect us, our finances, the drama in families, all these things. So it's just like, how do you navigate, how do you mitigate, through all these things? And I want them to know that it's possible, but you have to keep the hope. You have to keep the hope. That's the only thing that has kept me, hope. There's something better. There's something else that I can do. There's something on the other side of this. No matter what, I'm not going to dive in and get into this. And that's just been my objective.
I think we have so many people, and I encounter this in my client base. I encounter this when I do these programs, and I talk to a lot of people about finances. We have so many people who have resigned themselves to being reactive to life, and the charted life that exists for them now, whereas it wasn't what they planned, but it is what exists. They find a way to react to it and survive it every day. And it kind of steals the zest and the joy of life, because when you tell somebody, hey, you should prepare to do this, or I can't do this, I got these bills, or I got this, or, you got these bills because you did something that made these bills. We can do something to start to turn this so that the bills aren't that high, and now you can have this kind of life that you want. But people they resign. I saw something the other day. It was the most amazing. I was reading a book. That's what it was, the 5 a.m. Club. I read a lot of books, so I had to draw my memory. But in the 5 a.m. Club, it was a saying that said, a lot of people die at age 30 and get buried at age 80. And I thought that was the just most eye-opening statement, that we live our lives in cruise control, fighting through the mess that we've made with no courage to start to right the ship. And what else do we have to do? Like, a lot of times the greatest stories we hear come from those rock bottom, I didn't have any other choice moments, because you're just like, this can't be reality. This can't be what I signed up for. And it forces you to change. I would like to reference one of my older clients who said, we were talking about Jesus. At that point in time, I didn't believe in God, let alone Christianity. I was in my early 20s. And she said, you're going to believe in my God, Tank. She said, the problem for you is you get to God one of two ways, through inspiration or perspiration. And I hope it's not the latter for you. And, I used to think about that. You see so many people who go to prison and find religion and these different things that happen because life circumstances force you to find a catalyst to change to something else. And why not change without being forced to do so? Why wait till someone tells you have diabetes, your A1C is 16, it's uncontrollable by medicine, and you're about to lose that foot? Why wait till then to stop eating, the white bread and things of that nature? Now I'll tell you why, because white bread is delicious. Let's start there. But we could still not eat as much of it because we know where it leads to. I want to ask you, what's next for you? Like, as you look at the accomplishments that you've had, the successes and the joy that you bring so many people and get to experience and share in yourself, what do you feel as though, what's your hit list? And we're at the end of a year, we're coming up on resolution, New Year's resolution season. So what's next for Tomika?
I'm actually not ready to answer that question yet.
Okay. I'm just catching you off guard all over the place. What
No. I'm fine with answering that, but we were talking, and one of the things I just wanted to give some strategies on what helps me, to overcome some of the right now issues, right, that cause us stress, to make us kind of sort of forget about, taking care of our health and going to the doctors, and just different things that we can do in the moment right now. And one of the things that helps me every day, and this is a process, but you have to force yourself, and it's okay to mess up a little bit. But one of the things that do help me is journaling, right? Getting up every day. And I sometimes skip. I skip some weeks, sometimes I skip a month, but I will always go back to it. And when you journal, you're able to really express yourself, but also in that expression, sometimes you're also able to find the answers to what you need in that moment, and you have to allow yourself that, because when you're downloading, you're also receiving. So I know everybody's not into journaling. And I even introduced this to my little brother, and he was like, "Well, a journal." I sent him a journal because he was in the halfway house at the time. And he was like, it changed his life. He couldn't get into it at first. Like, what? Why am I writing? But if you try that, sometimes you can download information that you weren't even thinking about at the time. You were thinking about an issue and a problem, but while you're writing it, sometimes the solution comes. Mindset, constantly filling yourself with positive information. Whether it's a YouTube video every morning, there are times where I struggle myself, and what I would do is just let me find somebody positive to listen to on YouTube. I'm in the shower, I put it on my little speaker, and I'll listen to it while I'm showering, or at night when I'm taking my bath and my candles, right? That helps to change things in your head, so that while we're facing a lot of the challenges that we're going through, constantly putting good information in our spirit, not just here, but in our spirit, right? That takes hold. That takes hold of us, whether we know it or not. And we start reacting differently to different problems. Just like you said, I like to read. Well, I love reading. I mean, if you go back on my social media pages, like on my Facebook page, you'll see I love books. But lately, I've been so busy, I haven't been able to read. So I downloaded Audible. Now, I still get my reading on, I'm just not doing the reading. Somebody reading to me. So, I mean, it's a process. And I just want people to know that if you invest in yourself, because honestly, making a change in your life, begins with some kind of investment in changing your mindset. We talk about investing into this and investing into no. Let's invest in changing our mindset. Once we invest in changing our mindset and our mindset shifts, that's when everything else will take place. So I just wanted to just put that out there. I really did. Now you said what's next for me. Well, what's next for me is mainly getting behind other entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Okay. Social entrepreneurs that are trying to make a difference. I'm trying to help entrepreneurs now increase their footprint, increase their revenue so they can make a change in the community. So I'm very selective about who I deal with, who I work with. The name of my company is Impact Group. That's with two M's, MMPACT. And, I'm kind of like, keeping it very, small right now. But if people are interested in learning more or seeing how they can be a part of, they can DM me or anything like that. But, I'm trying to make sure that I'm able to give the information and the knowledge that I've experienced to others so they can have the greatest impact in the world.
I love it. I think that when we find a way to, there's all types of motivational quotes that I've listened to, read, keep around me. One of them is by Zig Ziglar. It says, you give enough people what they want and you'll get everything you want. And I find for me, I want to embody that. I want to be a vessel and be selfless and be able to just pour into the lives of other people. For one reason, I believe that if you have the ability to give to someone else, that means you got something. And it's a constant reminder, hey, I'm doing okay enough to give you this. And starting, which we start to show all the time, and I always laugh when I think about it, because one of my clients is his sign-off word is gratitude. And it stuck with me to the point you talk about programming. And so I always say I start to show off with the attitude of gratitude. And you realize that it's very difficult to have a bad thought when you're in a state of gratitude. When you're thankful for what it is that you have, it's difficult to be angry. And this goes back to what you feed yourself mentally. It's just, there's so much information out here. I grew up on hip hop music. I love hip hop music. Now, it makes me feel a little bit better because I'm trying to wean myself off of it. It makes me feel a little bit better that I feel like the quality of it is falling off. So it's easier to wean myself off of it as I get older. But there was a gentleman, he rest his soul, Wayne Dyer, motivational, inspirational speaker, Wayne Dyer. And he claims to have conducted an experiment with his teenage son once because he heard his teenage son listening to gangster rap. And he claims to have taken this is back when we had CDs. He told his son to come into the room with him and bring the gangster rap CD that he had overheard him listening to in his bedroom. And he said, I want you to take the rap CD and put it in your hands and hold your hands up as strong as you can like this. And he made his son do it. And then he said, resist me pushing your hands down. And he couldn't resist him. And Wayne Dyer was substantially older than his son, was just very easily able to push his son's hands down. Then he claims he took the CD away from him, did the same exercise, and his son was strong enough to keep him from pushing his hands down. And he said, just the negative energy that comes from the profane, abusive, violent music puts something into your aura that weakens you. Now, I don't know if it's true or not. I didn't conduct the experiment. I'm not throwing away my rap music. I love rap music. But the thought of I know that the opposite of that is true. I don't know if that Wayne Dyer experiment really happened and really worked that way, but I know the opposite is true. When I listen to some more upbeat, even church music, and I'm not a big church music listener too, but if I, catch a groove one day and I'm listening to it, I feel better. I feel like being nicer to people. I feel like smiling more. I feel more fortunate. And that programming lasts. It has a ripple effect that continues forward because you're putting yourself in an attitude of gratitude, a state of love, kindness, positiveness, openness, generosity. And that can guide you a very long way, both consciously and subconsciously.
I agree.
With that being said, the hour always flies by on the Financial Power Hour. We are at the end of the hour. Before we sign off, I need you to tell the people where they can find you at, and I need you to tell me when next year you're coming back.
Well, right now I'm just kind of supporting, my clients. So if my clients have an event, I will let y'all know because I'm behind my clients 200%. And I can keep people posted on that. Maybe I'll bring the Health Fest back, but right now I'm putting all my energy into those, clients that I support and their mission. And if you want to just talk to me or be a part of my mentorship program, you can add me on IG at Tomika McFadden. So that's Tomika, Tomika. I hope y'all put it up there. Underscore McFadden, McFadden. And you can also just look me up on my website, TomikaMcFadden.org. So.
We love it. I thank you. You guys still coming when you're coming back next year, though. We got to have you in 2023.
We'll see. We'll see.
All right. I will talk with you. I want to sign off and hang around and talk with me a little bit after the show. Everybody, I appreciate your time. I want you to get ready for the holiday season. We'll be back tomorrow with 15 Minutes of Finance, Thursday, 12:30 Eastern, on both the Wealth Our Way Facebook page and the Wealth Our Way Network YouTube page. Please, please, please never forget, wealth is not only for the wealthy. You guys take care and have the best evening.